Imagine, at least if you try to do something, you're halfway across the battle when someone who didn't even start walking. Like there's no way that they're ever going to defeat whatever obstacle it is that they have if they don't even try. So when it comes to a relationship, effort is everything. And when you just try to understand, like, hey, you know what, like, I'm in this relationship with you, and even though right now we're not on the same page, but I know that moving forward I want to continue doing this. We have to just make sure that we're always putting in the effort towards each other to make sure that we're on the same page. And with communication, that's what builds that teamwork. It's the reminder that you two are together in this. And as long as you continue trying, you know that your partners, they see that, oh shit, like, you know, they really want to make this work. You know, they're really putting in the effort. If I don't put in the effort, I mean, how is this relationship going to continue working?
100%. I think you can almost overcome anything as long as both parties are willing to put in the effort. What's up, everybody?
Welcome back to yet another post episode of
Coffee Breakup.
And whatever we want to talk about it. But anyways, so we're expanding more on the course that we've created, and of course the whole goal is to create the best individual that you can possibly be, and that's going to ultimately attract those great individuals around you and ultimately find that one partner that's meant for you.
Absolutely. We are in I believe chapter 5, the most important principles of building a healthy relationship.
Yeah, and if you've been following along, and fortunately if you have purchased the book, you would see how all this is connected, because you really can't have one without the other. Nope. And as you continue expanding through the book, you're able to see how you need the other ones in order to be able to kind of put this together. So it's almost like you said before, it's almost like a puzzle of everything that we're creating. But as you kind of put the puzzle pieces together, you kind of see like, oh, I see why these are all important. Sure. So today we wanted to talk about the most important principles of building a healthy relationship.
Yes, absolutely. One of the first ones is to communicate and respect the boundaries that you have with that individual. We've talked about this in previous chapters, and we will continue to talk about it throughout the
exactly,
because it's such an important pillar to any relationship, whether it's platonic, romantic, etc., etc. But you have to respect their boundaries, communicate with them clearly, coherently. And sometimes they may not want to talk. You know, that's also a boundary. Hey, listen, right now I'm not in a position to discuss this, or, you know, listen, I need a couple of minutes, or I need an hour or two. Give them that space. That is their boundary, right? You know, a lot of people, they want to fix certain things, and I got to talk about this. I need to get this across. Well, sometimes it's okay to take a step back and give each other a little bit of room to breathe. That's also a boundary. Absolutely.
And we talk about how important communication is, so we can understand, you know, kind of where those boundaries are for us to establish the balance and understand the expectations. Because if we're just kind of going off of, well, this is what we've always done, and we don't know if it works, or we always fight about the same thing, or they always shut down when I try to talk to them. Well, this is how we have to kind of navigate through this. So one of the most common things that we get is, well, there's an issue, you know, we're arguing, and they always say, you know, you can't go to sleep, don't go to bed angry at your partner. But sometimes maybe your partner's like, well, you know what? I don't want to talk about this right now. So I'll say two things. One, tomorrow is never promised. Okay. So on one spectrum, you want to say, you know what, let's try to at least be on the same page before we go to bed. The other one is respecting the boundaries, but then how do we choose which boundary to respect? Because maybe I want to solve it right now, but you want to wait until the next day. The best way to solve this is, before the end of the night, we need to discuss what the expectation is going to be. Maybe you don't want to solve the problem right now, but I need to know, at least by tomorrow, we're going to at least have some sort of conversation. Yeah. Because as I'm respecting your boundary of not wanting to talk about it right now, you need to respect my boundary of also wanting to eventually talk about it. So we don't have to speak about it before we go to bed, but just remember that I love you no matter what. We're going to get through this together. Yeah. But tomorrow, let's at least have the conversation. I want you to know that we're on the same team here. Even though we're not agreeing eye to eye and you want your space, just know that by tomorrow, at least let's have some sort of communication. Can we do that? Absolutely. And at least, again, when we talk about the communication and the interpretation that we talked about in the last chapter, that's how we're able to kind of set the expectation, establish the balance between the relationship, because it's not like my boundary is more important than yours, but we want to make sure that, fine, as I'm respecting yours because I know you need it in order for us to effectively be on the same page, by tomorrow we have to have some sort of conversation, because it cannot continue.
No, absolutely. And you've touched on some really important points where, like, listen, you reassure them, hey, I love you, you know, we get through this together, but right now I can't talk about this. I'm pissed. Yeah. Maybe I worked a 12-hour shift, I'm exhausted, I'm beat, I cannot, you know, complete this discussion right now. So let's talk about it tomorrow. You know, you set a boundary, but you also set an expectation, like, that we're gonna, you know, talk about this. you know, whether it is tomorrow or whatever, but you have to have that date where you can say, hey, listen, we'll come back and readdress this issue. And it also goes into the next subject, the effort. Well, because I could say, you know what, fuck this, I'm pissed, I'll walk away. But that's kind of one of the worst ways of handling the situation. Instead of saying, you know what, I'll put in the effort to say, tomorrow we'll talk about it, we'll lay out a plan and we'll discuss. You know, that is effort.
Yeah, I think effort is probably one of the most important like key points, topics, whatever you want to say, things that you can do within a relationship, because at the end of the day, there's nothing worse than someone who just doesn't give a fuck. Right?
It doesn't work.
It'll never work. If nobody ever wants to try. And we always talked about in the first sections of it, just trying to be a better individual by trying new things and trying to learn, trying to develop, being open-minded to be able to accept other people's points of views, even if we don't agree. But it all comes to is trying, you know, just the point of just putting an effort into anything is better than not doing anything at all. Because then, I mean, imagine at least if you try to do something, you're halfway across the battle. When someone who didn't even start walking, like there's no way that they're ever going to defeat whatever obstacle it is that they have if they don't even try. So when it comes to a relationship, effort is everything. And when you just try to understand, like, hey, you know what, like, I'm in this relationship with you, and even though right now we're not on the same page, but I know that moving forward I want to continue doing this. We have to just make sure that we're always putting in the effort towards each other to make sure that we're on the same page. And with communication, that's what builds that teamwork. It's the reminder that you two are together in this. And as long as you continue trying, you know that your partners, they see that, oh shit, like, you know, they really want to make this work. You know, they're really putting in the effort. If I don't put in the effort, I mean, how is this relationship going to continue working?
100%. I think you can almost overcome anything as long as both parties are willing to put in the effort. If one of them says, you know what, this isn't worth it anymore, it doesn't matter how hard the other person works. You can't compensate for someone who doesn't want to make certain things happen. So effort is so important. And then I guess the third part of it is respecting that boundary. Because what's the point of having boundaries when one person doesn't respect them? And essentially it falls apart. If you don't have that respect for that boundary, if you say, hey, I want to talk about it tomorrow, but if I say, I don't care, I need to talk about this now, then I just overstep your boundary. And that is a problem in itself. Yeah,
I mean, we're all different human beings, and we all have different upbringings, different things that make us who we are, and how we feel about certain things, how we understand certain things, everything. I mean, we're just completely different individuals. So whatever you love, it may not be what I love, and whatever bothers me may not bother you. So that's kind of why, I mean, when it comes to having the effective communication, respecting each other's boundary, and always understanding that you want to put effort towards that, because I may not care, or not that I don't care, but I may not understand why you're bothered about something. I may not understand why you want to set that boundary.
Correct.
But I also have to try to be fair with you, because maybe, again, I don't understand, but you may not understand what bothers me. And I would want you to be patient with me. I would want you to put an effort to at least say, man, well, you know, Chris is feeling a certain way, or maybe it's bothering him. I don't understand why it's bothering him. And there's situations, something with my girlfriend, especially when it comes to family. And I'll give you an example, because she has a huge family. My family is very small. And I tell her all the time, because maybe she doesn't understand, like, if maybe I can't do something, or I'm not comfortable doing something, because in her family, it's huge. Everyone talks about everything. Everyone knows everything. They're always together. I'm not used to that. You know what I mean? And so then what do? I step out of my comfort zone, and I put an effort to be around her family, because I know it's so important for her. But then if there's certain times that maybe I'm working too much, or I'm literally here with you, or just have other things going on with just life. So then I need her to understand, like, man, maybe, you know, it's too much for him if I'm pulling him into all this family stuff all the time. It's not that I don't want to, but this is like a huge change for me that I grew up not really understanding. So then now she's been a little bit more understanding, because I've effectively communicated, and I've tried to make sure that there was no misinterpretation as it was in the beginning. So it was kind of tough, because you almost feel like, well, this is how I feel, and this is why it bothers me. I can't believe it's bothering you a different way. It's like, listen, this is why we have to talk about it, because we're not the same person. We were raised feeling different things. Exactly. So that's why that's my position. And now we have a better understanding where we respect each other's boundaries, because we have the effective communication and always putting an effort towards having the healthy communication.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, you're a perfect example of that.
I think you too, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, we have the same discussion, very similar discussion. Your relationship with Christina is very similar in many ways as is mine and Claudia. Right. And so
she has a huge family. Well, you have a huge family too.
I have a big family too, but it's a different dynamic. We're not as close, and her and her family are like inseparable. And so sometimes it can create a different set of expectations. And so communicating those and being honest and being vulnerable and being saying, hey, listen, this is how I feel, this is how you feel. How can I make it happen, make it work? Effort is key to all of this. But sometimes, you have to have certain boundaries where, like, this is how much I can give right now, and I can't give more than that. And you have to be respectful enough and understanding enough to agree to that boundary and respect my boundaries. So important.
Yeah, and we always talk about, because then we say, well, relationships aren't really 50-50 or they should be 50-50. That's usually what they'll say. But we've learned that sometimes, we create a scale.
Yeah.
It should always be, we say 100-0, which effectively it's balanced on both sides, because you just want to make sure that you're always trying.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what effort's all about, because if you're always putting in the effort and doing your best, God forbid something goes wrong, you can hold your head up high knowing that you didn't do anything wrong.
So
right? And everyone's effort is a little bit different. So just because maybe today I can't give you the full 100 or I can't give you all of me, that's where you're like, okay, you know what? I'm understanding me, because you always give me, you're always putting an effort on everything else. Maybe sometimes you need some time. Maybe sometimes you can't. So that's where we understand the boundaries and the level of effort that we can. But everyone is different and everyone's going to perceive that different. Everyone's effort's a little bit different. But as long as we always try, I feel like that's...
But even if but that might even be your 100. That might be your 100 for today. If that's all you're giving, then that is your 100. It just might not be comparable to yesterday's 100, because maybe you got a little like 2 hours of extra sleep. Today you're exhausted. You're having certain things, emotional problems that you're going through, and you can only do this. Well, that is your 100, right? So also kind of different way to kind of look at it.
That is true. Yeah, because I look at almost like, because I have the Whoop, and it tells me like, how my sleep is and my strain and stuff like that. And it's almost like, man, like there's no way I can reach 100%, but I can reach the 100 that I'm capable of doing, and that just may be my 70% of the day. Maybe I can't ever reach 100, but I can maximize the 70% that I can. That for that day is 100% that I'm able to put.
Your effort. Yesterday, you came, you were exhausted, you had a headache, You went to the gym, you worked. You came here, you showed up. We recorded, we did this. That was your 100. That was your 100.
That was my 100.
And today is your 100 too, but it's a different 100.
But I'm still here.
But you're still here, putting in the work, energetic, on fire.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. I like that. That's a good way to close it.
That is a good way to close it off.
Oh, yeah, guys. Thank you. Again, this is part of our course, the keys. And those are the kind of foundations of a relationship, of a healthy relationship at that. And
exactly.
Platonic, again, this applies to any type of relationship. Doesn't have to be romantic, but it can. Could be your friends, could be your family members. But these keys are applicable to everybody. Yeah,
so again, we started off with writing the book because, again, we wanted to help as many people as possible with all the feedback we've gotten, all the questions that we've gotten, and a lot of commonalities that everyone's been sharing with us. That's why we wrote this book, in order for you to be the best version of yourself. And we've expanded on a whole course that really goes into detail, and it also gives you a call with us at the end to really get in depth of what you're currently going through and how we can actually help you to become that best individual that you can be.
Yeah.
But to get started, we did create the keys for you to get a taste of what it's all about, for you to have these principles every single day and just live by them, and constant just reminders for you for how to become that best individual.
For sure. Love it.
That being said, ladies and gentlemen,
thank you guys.
Peace.
Ciao.